My husband and I, both 35, met in college. We fell in love and got married 8 years back. I gave birth to our daughter in 2020. My husband is a professor at this med school. He's a doctor himself. My friend, Sarah, also works in the same college, and she's in the same department as my husband. A few months back, in December, Sarah took me out for lunch and told me that she suspected something's going on between my husband and this med student, 25F. She claimed she'd seen both of them give yearning looks to each other. She said that she's known my husband for so long, and she'd never seen him talk to any other woman like this, that he'd been so aloof around women all these years, but it's just different with this one girl. In that moment, I had laughed at her face. I remember telling her that she's jumping to conclusions based on these supposed yearning looks. That's why I didn't tell you before, she had said. I was confused too. It's not like he goes out of his way to talk to her, but whenever they do talk, it's like watching a slow burn romance movie. She looks at him like he's Brad Pitt, and he looks at her the way he used to look at you. I remember the exact words because they stung. Internally, I was breaking down. Externally, I just smiled and told her that she's probably overthinking. That night, I casually mentioned this my husband. I was laughing at the absurdity, and I expected him to join in and deny the wild possibility that he's in love with a student. But he didn't. Instead, he looked at me, all teary-eyed, and said, "I'm sorry. I can't get her out of my mind. I've tried, trust me. I should have told you sooner. But I thought I could save our relationship. I really wanted to." I asked him if he cheated on me. He said no. He said he didn't even talk to her, nor did they have any contact outside of college, and that he completely understood how morally depraved it is to try and pursue a relationship with a student. She wrote him a letter about a year back, confessing her love for him, and he had told her that even though he was into her, nothing would come out of it. Apparently, that was when the yearning looks had started. I honestly don't remember how I reacted then. I think I just started packing and came to live with my parents along with my daughter. I've been living with my parents since then. Half of me wanted him to come and beg for forgiveness, but he never did. He comes by sometimes to spend time with our daughter, but that's it. He never talks about the elephant in the room, nor do I bring it up. I keep checking that girl's social media. She's insanely beautiful, almost doll-like, and intelligent. I can't help but think that someone like him should be with someone like her. He's always been very good-looking, and I'm more of a plain Jane. She's the Meredith to his Derek. I don't know what to do. What do I even tell people? I don't even know who I am without him. Some part of me still wants him to come back. Edit. I've decided to talk to him. I know I've been avoiding this since months, but after reading all the responses, I feel it's time I rip that band-aid out. I'm going over to our house. I'll update on what happens. Relevant comments. Commenter. So he didn't actually cheat? He has a crush? If I'm understanding that right, he hasn't betrayed you yet. Crushes sometimes happen. That doesn't mean the relationship is over. Get therapy with him. Opie. I mean, cheating for me isn't just physical. He's had crushes in the past, and I've had crushes in the past, but we'd always been upfront and then laughed about it. This one feels like a betrayal because he was attracted to someone for more than a year. This someone gave him a freaking love letter. He told her that he's attracted to her, and not once did he mention it to me. That's a huge breach of trust for me, and I don't think I can look past it. Opie added more about her friend Sarah and what she observed. I know. He said he entirely stopped interacting with her after the letter incident. It does seem absurd, but even my friend, Sarah, corroborated this. She said he never went out of his way to talk to her before, and then almost entirely stopped talking. Given that Sarah and him are in the same department 24/7, and that she noticed something as small as them giving each other looks, I'm sure she would have noticed anything out of the ordinary. I've had access to his phone and his passwords throughout, and he wasn't texting or calling her either. That's why this feels weird. Update 1. For those who don't want to read the boring details, in short, I have decided to go ahead with the divorce. Long story. The day I made the post, I met up with Sarah for dinner. I thanked her for telling me about my husband and the student, and also for being such a good friend. I asked her about my husband. She said there's nothing unusual. He's been a bit withdrawn and aloof with everyone lately, but that's about it. Yesterday, I went over to my house unannounced. He was there alone in his office. I told him I wanted to talk. He said he'll explain everything. So apparently this woman has had a crush on him since 2 years. Her friends ship her with him. She would stare at him during her rotations and would blush whenever he looked or talked to her. Back then, he didn't think much of it. Many girls have had crushes on him, and he always ignored it. About 1.5 years back, they were in the same research group thing. I don't know how this works, but there were 5 to 6 people along with these two. Because of this, they had to spend some time together working, and it was then that he started noticing her. He went into detail about how he was impressed with her intelligence, blah blah blah. and her beauty blah blah blah. The moment he realized that he had a crush on her, he dropped out of the research thing. This was a year ago. A few weeks later, she gave him the letter confessing that she has feelings for him. The first thing he told her after reading it was, "You can get into trouble because of this." She didn't care. She wanted an answer. "Is it all in my head?" she had asked, to which he replied with, "It's not just in your head, but nothing can come out of it. I hope you understand." That was the last time they interacted. According to him, the yearning looks Sarah described were more of awkward eye contacts than anything else. He told me that even though he is still attracted to her, he has no intention of pursuing any sort of relationship with her regardless whether we stay together or not. He said he's willing to change his job and go to therapy. I told him to give me some time to think about it. To sum up, 1. This has been going on since 3 years. Not once did he mention anything to me. 2. The student and him spent a considerable amount of time last year working on the research. 3. He told her he liked her back lol. 4. He's still very much attracted to her. And that's why I've decided to go ahead with a divorce. I don't think I can trust this man again, and a relationship without trust isn't something I am interested in. I've told my parents about it. They're not exactly on board, but they're still supportive. I've also contacted my lawyer about the same. It's going to be a long process, I believe. Relevant comments. Commenter. It's a crush. He is not in love. Opie. That doesn't matter. He crossed a line he shouldn't have by telling her he likes her. Commenter. Literally, I can't believe these comments. He's gushing about her beauty and intelligence. He told her the feeling was mutual. He could have easily denied it to her and then kept his distance, but he liked the attention. Opie. I mean, to be fair to him, he wasn't exactly gushing about her. I kept asking, and he kept answering. Deal breaker for me was him telling her the feeling is mutual. Commenter. LMAO these dumbass comments. You too hasty, it's a cruelish chill. Like SDFU, the man literally said, I can't get her out of my head. If he was committed to his wife, he would have changed job proactively, not wait until now. He let it develop to a point he can't take his mind off of her, and y'all saying it's no big deal. You guys obviously never had a real relationship. Opie. He said he didn't change his job earlier because, quote, I'm a doctor and there are people counting on me. I couldn't just walk out on them one day. RN2, he said he's willing to change his job if that's what it takes to make you stay. Update 2. For context, my ex-husband is a doctor and he was in love with his student for years. She was into him too and wrote him a love letter, etc. When I confronted him, he told me it was a crush and that he put a stop to it as soon as he could, and that nothing physical ever happened, but the damage was done. You can read the posts on my account if you're interested, but that's the gist. Nothing more there. So I decided to take our daughter and permanently move to my parents' house. We're in the middle of separating now. A lot of people have told me to forgive him, and I've myself debated if I'm taking the correct step or not, but the trust is gone and I don't think I want to be in a relationship with someone like him. It's taking a lot of strength to do this. I have lost all self-esteem. Fact is that I was always insecure of how my ex was way above my league, about how I was lucky to have him, how people often said he could have done so much better. Over the years, my insecurities had disappeared. Now it's all back. He's attracted to someone so beautiful, so incredibly intelligent, and obviously she's also into him. I keep looking at her social media all the time, obsessing over her. There was an Instagram story she uploaded where she was with my ex-husband and few others, and it felt like someone stabbed me in the heart. He looked happy, and he'd never looked that happy in years. I got tired of being pathetic and even complained to the hospital management about the inappropriate relationship between her and my ex. All I got in response was that they can't take any steps without concrete proof. Now my sadist wants to snitch about her to her parents, to get her in trouble, to make her suffer. I know this is unhealthy. I'm in therapy, but I don't think I'm healing. I hate that I have to be sad and heartbroken over that man, and he doesn't seem to care. He stopped coming to visit our daughter too. I wish he would have cared. I wish he would have fought for me. I wish he would have not tossed aside our decade-long relationship for her. I hate this. I hate everything. Relevant comments. Commenter. If you wanted to go full petty, you could out them to her training program. Medical schools and teaching institutions frown on faculty/learner romantic relationships and consider it an abuse of power. Your husband likely had to formally evaluate her and she him. Their affair, even emotional, would tip the fairness of those evals compared to the other students. I have seen married doctors fired for this kind of behavior. Also, tell her parents. She sure as shit didn't mind hurting you or your daughter. Don't roll over because of a misplaced sense of loyalty to your D-bag ex. Opie. I did reach out to her training program. They basically told me that they can only take steps if I have any tangible proof, which I don't. I asked my friend Sarah, who works in the same department as him, to also complain, but she's not keen on the idea. Why? I feel like I've already wasted so many years on him. We met when we were 20. I thought I knew him so well, but now it's like I didn't know him at all. I don't understand what's changed, tbh. He's a very good-looking guy. All throughout our relationship, there have been many girls who had crushes on him. He used to be so chill about all of it. Never made me feel insecure. Never lost his mind like this. What's happened, honestly. Update 3. Hey everyone. I'm back with another update. So, things took a pretty wild turn since my last post. After feeling like a broken record and spending countless therapy sessions trying to make sense of everything, I decided it was time for some serious action. I knew I had to confront the situation head-on, and that meant facing both my ex and his infatuation head-on. Last week, I showed up at his place unannounced again. This time, I was determined to get some closure. He was home, alone, and clearly surprised to see me. We ended up having a long, intense conversation about everything. I told him how much he had hurt me and how I felt like I was drowning in a sea of insecurities. He listened, but he didn't say much. It was like talking to a brick wall. Then, something unexpected happened. In the middle of our conversation, his phone rang. He didn't pick up, but the caller ID was right there in front of me. It was the student. I couldn't believe my eyes. Despite everything, they were still in contact. I lost it. I grabbed his phone and answered the call. I heard her voice, soft and sweet, asking if he was okay. My ex tried to snatch the phone back, but it was too late. I told her everything, that I knew about their emotional affair, that we were getting divorced, and that she had destroyed my family. There was silence on the other end before she hung up. My ex was furious. He accused me of overreacting and violating his privacy. But honestly, at that point, I didn't care. I had reached my limit. I told him I was done and that I never wanted to see him again. I left the house feeling a strange sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. In the following days, I decided to take some control back. I started focusing on myself and my daughter. I blocked both my ex and the student on all social media. I stopped obsessing over their lives and started thinking about my own future. But here's where things get even crazier. Yesterday, I got a call from Sarah. Apparently, word had spread about the incident with the phone call. The student's friends had found out, and it turned into a massive scandal at the med school. She's now facing disciplinary action for her inappropriate relationship with my ex, and he's under investigation too. It looks like karma is finally catching up with them. I'm still navigating through a mess of emotions, but I'm starting to see a glimmer of hope. For the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe. I'm not saying everything's magically better, but I'm learning to stand on my own 2 feet again. As for my ex, he's tried to reach out a few times, but I've ignored him. He made his bed, and now he has to lie in it. I'm focusing on my daughter and myself, and that's all that matters right now. Update 4. Alright, so things have continued to escalate in ways I never could have anticipated. I wasn't planning to update so soon, but some major developments have happened, and I figured you all would want to know. First off, the disciplinary action at the med school has turned into a full-blown scandal. Apparently, the administration took the allegations very seriously, especially given the current climate around power dynamics and professional ethics. The student, let's call her Emily, has been suspended pending further investigation. My ex-husband has been put on administrative leave while they sort things out. It's a mess, and both their careers are hanging by a thread. But here's where it gets really wild. Sarah called me yesterday with some jaw-dropping news. She'd overheard some colleagues talking and found out that Emily's father is a big shot donor at the med school. Apparently, he got wind of what was happening and went ballistic. He's furious with Emily, and rumor has it that he's threatening to pull all his funding if the school doesn't take severe action against both of them. This has turned the whole situation into a high-stakes drama. Meanwhile, I've been trying to keep my head above water. I'm still living with my parents, and they've been incredibly supportive, even though this whole thing has been tough on them too. My daughter's been a trooper through all of this. She's too young to understand the full extent of what's happening, but she knows that mommy and daddy aren't together anymore, and that's been hard on her. We've been spending a lot of quality time together, and it's helping both of us heal. But the biggest shocker came 2 days ago. I got a knock on my door, and when I opened it, there stood Emily. I was stunned. She looked nothing like the confident, beautiful girl I'd seen on social media. She was a mess, red eyes, tear-streaked face, completely distraught. She begged me to hear her out, and against my better judgment, I let her in. We sat down, and she started sobbing, apologizing profusely for everything. She told me she never meant for any of this to happen, that she was young and stupid and got carried away. She said my ex had always maintained that nothing could happen between them, but she kept pushing, hoping he'd change his mind. She claimed she didn't know he was married when she first developed feelings for him, and by the time she found out, she was already too deep in her infatuation to pull back. She then dropped the bombshell. Apparently, she's been receiving anonymous threats ever since the scandal broke. People have been sending her hateful messages, and she's terrified. She pleaded with me to help her, to tell the school that she was just a naive student who made a mistake, and to please talk to my ex to get him to support her during the investigation. I didn't know what to say. On one hand, I felt a sliver of sympathy for her. She's young. She made a mistake, and now her life is falling apart. On the other hand, she played a role in destroying my marriage and causing me immense pain. I told her I needed time to think and asked her to leave. She left, still sobbing, and I haven't heard from her since. Commenter: wow, Emily, showing up at your door is next level. You're handling this with so much grace. Whatever you decide, just make sure it's what's best for you and your daughter. Opie, thanks. It was surreal seeing her in person. I'm still processing everything, but I'm trying to stay strong for my daughter and myself. Commenter: Emily made her bed. She should lie in it. Don't feel obligated to help her. Focus on your own healing. I hear you. It's a complicated situation, but I'm definitely prioritizing my daughter and my own well-being. Commenter: maybe talk to a lawyer about the threats Emily's receiving. You don't want to get dragged into any legal mess because of this. Opie, good point. I'll bring it up with my lawyer and see what they advise. Thanks for the suggestion. Commenter: it's amazing how you're keeping it together. Just remember, you owe Emily nothing. She's dealing with the consequences of her actions. Opie, thank you. It's been tough, but I'm trying to stay focused on what really matters. Update 5. To start with, the investigation at the med school concluded, and the results were pretty damning. Both Emily and my ex were found guilty of violating the institution's code of conduct. Emily was expelled, and my ex lost his job. It was a huge scandal, and their reputations have taken a massive hit. The fallout was intense, and honestly, watching it unfold was like witnessing a train wreck in slow motion. After my last update, I had a long talk with my parents and my therapist about what to do with Emily's request for help. The consensus was clear. While it's important to have compassion, I shouldn't feel responsible for her situation. I decided not to get involved. I have enough on my plate, and her problems are a result of her own actions. My ex tried reaching out multiple times, asking for forgiveness and a chance to explain himself further. He even showed up at my parents' house once, begging for another chance. But by then, I was done. There's a limit to what one can endure, and I had reached mine. I told him to leave and to focus on sorting out his own mess. He hasn't contacted me since. Emily, on the other hand, has completely disappeared from social media. I heard from Sarah that her family pulled her out of the public eye to avoid further humiliation. I feel a strange sense of relief knowing she's no longer in the picture, but I also hope she learns from this and finds a way to rebuild her life. As for me, things have been getting better, little by little. I found a new job in a different city and moved there with my daughter. It's been refreshing to start anew, away from all the drama and memories. My parents have been incredible, helping me with the move and taking care of my daughter when needed. One of the biggest changes has been focusing on my self-esteem and mental health. Therapy has been a lifesaver. I'm learning to love myself again, to see my worth beyond my past relationship. I've started working out, picked up some new hobbies, and even joined a support group for people going through similar situations. The support and solidarity have been incredibly healing. My daughter is adjusting well to the new environment. She's made new friends and seems happier here. We've created new routines and traditions, and it's helping both of us move forward. She's still young, and I'm doing everything I can to ensure she grows up in a loving and stable environment. To everyone who's followed my story and offered advice and support, thank you from the bottom of my heart.